Well, it's just about time to start. This is the startup show. Trying to figure out how to control this light. It seems to have a mind of its own today. So it's almost 12:30, and you know what that means, boys and girls. This is the startup show. John Wren, we're here each day, Monday through Friday now at 12:30. We previously announced 12:15, but for a combination of reasons, we've decided to make it 12:30 instead. Be no more than a half hour. If we run out of things to talk about, we'll stop sooner. You can watch live any day at johnwren.com. Or go back to that same place, and the same link will take you to a recording of the show if 12:30 doesn't work out for you. This is the startup show. We're intended to be helpful to people who are starting something new in their work life. If you're starting a new career, a new project, a new campaign, or a new business, watch the startup show. We'd also love to have you on the show. We are going to be doing it in various chambers of commerce offices. If you're in a chamber and would like to have us visit and do the show from your office, give us a call. And if you would like to be on the show and share your startup experience, either from a chamber office or from in front of your computer with a webcam, give us a call. We're going to, starting next week, have guests on the show to share their startup experience, where the idea came from, what they were doing, how they got their first customer, their first day on the job, their first commitment in a campaign. You know, how does a thought turn into action? That's what we focus on. IDEA, IDEA is the four-step business creativity model that we've talked about for a long time. It stands for inspiration, or identify the problem, although very few small businesses start that way. You can identify the problem and be Google and spend billions, but even there, you know, you wonder if things like the driverless car are actually going to work out. But with limited money, if you're bootstrapping, if you don't have enough to get going, that may be your best opportunity, because most successful businesses do not start the way that the SBA says that they should start. They just don't. Dr. Amar Bahidi has researched this carefully. His book, The Origin and Evolution of New Businesses, is terrific. Just Start, Harvard Business Review Press, makes the same case. You know, what we've got is the day ahead. And so we look back, see where we've come from, have this inspiration. Maybe we check it out. We're going to be talking about contemplative imagination a little bit, but after we have this imagination, sometimes it's a good time to stop and think. So I, inspiration, or identify the problem. D, develop alternatives. That's the little pioneer logo with the D on his chest. That's all we do here at the Idea Cafe Startup Workshop, or any of the meetings. We try to accentuate the positive, but at some point you have to sit down and take a hard look at things. E is evaluate. So IDE is evaluate. I think the best way to do that, go see a good CPA. A good one won't tell you if it's a good idea or not, but they will tell you the financial implications, and if you need to talk to a lawyer. Sometimes you can get away without talking to a lawyer, but a good CPA is trained to help you make that decision. And then A is take action. And sometimes whoever goes through this loop the quickest has got a tremendous advantage. Sometimes who goes through the loop quickest is the pioneer with an arrow in his back. So, you know, every situation's a little bit different. But we share our experience. You know, life is just too short for any of us to learn from just our own experience. So we try to share experience here. We're going to be having guests on the show starting next week to share startup experience. So if that's you, give us a call. This week, we're going to be talking about what I've been working on for over 20 years. And it's, we're calling it new, but it's really not. It's something I've discovered over the last 20 years working with startups. I've done a bunch of different stuff. And what I've learned is that businesses just don't start the way the SBA says that they should start. And so we, well, how do they start? it's going to be more fully expressed from this point forward. I'm in the process of rewriting a little, I don't know if it's going to be a total revision, a revised edition. My first little book, it's available on Amazon. The Kindle edition is 99 cents. I'll give you $1 back if you read it and don't find it helpful, because it's still the 4 phases, I think, of startup and my best thinking when I first wrote it some 20 years ago. It's called Daring Mighty Things. If you go to Amazon, just search on Amazon for John Wren, Daring Mighty Things. It comes right up. Kindle edition is 99 cents. It's a little pamphlet on how businesses actually get started as contrasted with how the SBA says that they should start. And Dr. Amir Bahidi, who I praise, has, when that first came out, said he thought everybody should read it. Mainly, maybe because I praised him, I'm not sure. Mutual Admiration Society, but that's how all books work. You know, I'll endorse your book if you endorse mine. But I sincerely believe in Dr. Bahidi, and I have a hunch he sincerely believes in what I'm doing. He's come out to Denver and spent an entire day with me on the University of Denver campus talking to management classes. You know, the dean scheduled this in when she was going to be gone. That kind of put a damper on the whole thing. But, you know, she's gone. They've gone through 2 deans since then. And they're starting a new entrepreneurship program that I, in my own personal opinion, just from what I've heard about it, is totally misguided. This looks like a little bit, you know, startup noir here with the shadow on my face. Sorry for that. I don't know. Maybe the sun's coming in and out. I don't know what that is, but somehow it's gotten a little dark. Well, maybe that's a good warning, because whether it's me or anyone else talking, you've got to process this all through your own mind and make up your own mind. Take what you like and leave the rest. So we're going to be starting at 12:30 each day, Monday through Friday. And it's way past that now, so let's get started. Today we're going to talk about 2 things. One is contemplative imagination, and the other is Martin Luther King Day and an idea I have, and I'd like your feedback on it if you'd be so kind. Contemplative imagination came to my mind because I got up this morning with an idea, and that's always dangerous. And I was thinking about this process that I'm recommending to others, and that maybe if I take that to heart myself, maybe things would work out a little bit better. And, you know, this 4-step process, inspiration, you get this idea, I develop alternatives, sometimes very quickly. And me personally, I very often skip the evaluation step. And I, this morning, was thinking about what a mistake that was. And then this contemplative imagination comes up, and I'm reminded about where some of my thinking has come from on this, and some of the corrective measures that have been suggested that I've just totally ignored. So I want to context this in this Small Business Chamber of Commerce spiritual startup method that we're talking about now. And the practice that we're going to talk about today is faith and imagination, really both of them, contemplative you know, imagination. And it sparked in my mind as each morning I listened to just a terrific free podcast from the Jesuits in the United Kingdom. And they've got a website. It's Pray, P-R-A-Y, prayasugo.org. It's divided with hyphens, prayasugo, hyphenated.org. And this morning, if you go there, you can, what came up first for me, they do a daily meditation, but then they also have some other resources. And for some reason, it came up on my computer today, right to contemplative imagination. And it reminded me a lot of the training I've gotten on Jesuit retreats that has really, I think, helped me understand how my mind works. I think some of this I did intuitively, and I think we all do to a certain extent, except there are so many things that just try to beat the imagination out of us. You know, you take a little kid going into school, he's bright, curious, asking questions, and 12 years later he comes out bored, hating school. You know, we've set up this mechanism really for snuffing the life out of kids. And it's not the teacher's fault. They need to make a living. They go to school, they learn how, they get a job, and they're trying to hang on until retirement. But that aside, there is a need for imagination, and contemplative imagination is a very, very powerful technique. And if you go to the prayasugo.org site and pull up their meditation, it's a 4-part series where you actually do contemplative imagination. I really highly recommend it. You could do it today on Martin Luther King Day as an exercise by doing all 4, sort of a private retreat. You could still do it with the time left in the day today, and it would charge up your imagination. Now, where does that fit in our model? We say there are 4 practices that are the essence of our startup method. There is faith, that bigger picture. Martin Seligman in his book Flourishing talks about it, and he's PERMA, P-E-R-M-A. M is meaning, that you have a big picture view of the world, and that you have faith in this big picture view. I mean, if you've got a bad big picture view, trade it in on a new one. And sometimes that's hard, but faith is a practice. Imagination is a practice. There are different techniques for that. Pray As You Go has this really good teaching on contemplative imagination. I'm really encouraging you to take a hard look at that and see if there's not some application. Now, it's got a certain model that it uses that you may want to tweak slightly to fit yours. If you're in a 12-step program, the book you may want to use is your book for the 12-step program. Or if you're in another religious tradition and the Jesuits in the United Kingdom, you may want to, but the technique stands whatever book you'd be using. And I've used it on all kinds of books. But what you do is you put yourself into the scene. You imagine it happening to you. Now, some people do this very easily. Poets, people that enjoy poetry, you read the words and it makes a movie start running in your head. And so what the Jesuits do is train people to use that as a technique. Their founder, St. Ignatius of Loyola, wanted to make these techniques as widely available as possible. And a lot of business schools talk about scenario building. And that very much comes out of this. So take a look at it, prayasugo.org. I'd like your feedback on it. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk with you today about is Martin Luther King Day. That's today. And I think it's wonderful. I have from time to time gone down and marched in what we call here in Denver the Ma-Raid, Martin Luther King Parade, and they shortened it to Ma-Raid. Do they do that all over the country? I don't know if that's just in Denver, but just in Denver, incomplete. The fans chant if the opposing team drops a pass. And I'm told that we're the only football team in the country that does that. Incomplete. But you can count on it when you're in the Broncos stadium. And Parade may be that same way. I'm not really sure. But Martin Luther King, I think, is widely separated. We've made it a national holiday, Martin Luther King Day. And I have suggested this in the past, and I'm going to bring it up again because yesterday was another birthday that to me ought to be more celebrated than Washington's birthday, Lincoln's birthday. I think it should be right up there with the 4th of July, and we could meld it into the 4th of July, but I think that might be a mistake. And, Martin Luther King is a hero. He had courage. He made a definite change. Whether it's, absolutely, we ought to treat people fairly. There's no question about that. But it gets tricky when you start writing it into the law. They're trying to write into law now that you cannot bully. Well, some of these things you have to leave to individual discretion. And I do not want to see kids bullied. No way. But we start prescribing behavior through legislation, One of the justices, I believe it was the source, I watched the hearings on the gay marriage proposal. They said that what led directly to gay marriage was the civil rights legislation, because we had started dictating behavior. Well, where do we draw a line on that? I'm not really sure. It's gay marriage now. What is it going to be in the future? It's one thing to allow people the respect to let them lead their life the way that they want to, and to say not be a bully. Really, bullying could apply to all these. Or we ought to treat people with respect and dignity. And there's the president of Oberlin College started a movement to try to look at rankism. We discriminate against the people that are not at the top of the organization. The boss walks through, everybody is very friendly. The guy working next to you, do you treat him the same way? And sometimes it doesn't have to do with the color of our skin or any other behavior. It's just rank in an organization, and that can cause real problems too. And so the president of Oberlin College wrote a couple of books. I kind of thought it would get going, but I think why it didn't is he started wanting it to be another protected class. And, a lot of these things, we're just going to have everything that we do regulated at some point. And some people are really going to hate this idea, but, I'm going to ask you to reserve judgment, listen to the whole thing first, and then decide. Then you can hate me if you want to, or at least disagree. Why can't we disagree with each other without hating the other person? Let's maybe agree to disagree on some things, but still be friends. That's one of the things we try to practice at Socrates Cafe. That's, one of the practices. It's faith, imagination, thinking, and we try to encourage people to go to Socrates Cafe. Chris Phillips has started this wonderful movement all across the United States. Read his book, Socrates Cafe, if you haven't yet already, and then find a group. And what we try to do is to learn ways to talk with each other and share our thinking and thoughts without just, what's happening too much today is we don't talk things through. We just each go to our respective corner and talk with the people in our corner. We don't even come out to the middle of the ring to confront each other. And I think it's a big part of our problem. Socrates Cafe tries to overcome that, but that's thinking. And then lifelong learning. Benjamin Franklin, I think his greatest invention was pulling people together for these, what sometimes now is called a peer advisory group. People are making money out of it. I think they've distorted the process. Rotary International takes, they claim to have taken what they do from Franklin's group, but they don't at all do what Franklin's group did. He writes about it in his autobiography. Benjamin Franklin's got a terrific autobiography. It was not published until he died. He didn't write it for anybody but his son. It was a letter to his son. They had a big falling out. I don't think his son probably ever saw it. And just Ben Franklin's autobiography. And in there, he talks about this group that he pulled together with his more ingenious colleagues when he was 21 years old. They met together every Friday night for over, almost 30 years. And the only reason they quit is they pretty much all died, except Franklin, who lived an incredibly long life for people back then. And so the Junto, though, he called the best school, and we call them Franklin Circles now, and that's the lifelong learning practice that we encourage. If you're interested in any of this, give me a call. I can share more with you. We've got a website, smallbizchamber.org, or take a look on mine, johnwren.com. But at any rate, this contemplative imagination, getting back to the main topic today, has led me, I believe, to come up with something. And I've brought it up in the past. It was not well received. I'm going to try it one more time today, and it concerns Martin Luther King Day. And thinking about Ben Franklin's birthday yesterday, Martin Luther King's birthday today with the parade, I have a suggestion to make, and I'm going to wait to get feedback from somebody that also thinks it's a good idea. or I may never bring it up again, but I want to share it with you briefly, and then we're going to call it a day. May end a little early today. I'm going to lunch with my daughter, and I'm looking forward to that, but we're starting the show later. I thought I'd have more time to get ready. But here's my idea. Martin Luther King Day, I think, is wonderful to recognize this American hero. He's a true American hero. But we have a whole pantheon of true American heroes that have given us our freedom today in this country. That, you know, I like what Warren Buffett says. He says, you know, they're talking about, you know, let's get America going again. He says, you know, America's going pretty good. We're not grateful enough for what we have. And he thinks it comes out of the political campaigns and the advertisers where, you know, negative campaigning and scaring people, pointing out the shortcomings, you know, it makes us live in this state of anxiety. Things are pretty good in this country, and we've had a whole series of people that have given that to us. You know, we recognize George Washington. I'm not sure he'd ever have been president. I'm not sure we would have a country if it wasn't for Benjamin Franklin. And so I think some adjustment should be made to Martin Luther King Day so that it doesn't carry the message that there is only one way to be a true American hero. Or if you take Lincoln and Washington's birthday, you know, you can be president, or you can, you know, bring about the kind of change that Martin Luther King did. But there are other changes that needed. And Ben Franklin, you know, some people think he was president, so he's covered in presidency. He was never president. And he, though, I think had the idea of America. The best biography of Franklin, in my mind, is a book called The First American. It's written by a history professor in Texas. He's written a lot of good books. Yeah, that's my daughter calling right now. Give her a message. Can't talk right now, but I will call her back. And I'm going to wrap this up here pretty quick. She may already be here. But here's the idea. I'll talk about it tomorrow. Come back at 12:30 if you like it or if you hate it. And you can make comments on various places. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. The show's just getting started. I'm sorry it's a little raggedy. It's for a combination of reasons today. But here's the idea. Let's take Martin Luther King Day, and let's start every year on Martin Luther King Day recognizing a true American hero. And I'd like to see it start next year with Benjamin Franklin. So let's talk about that more tomorrow. We're sponsored by the Small Business Chamber of Commerce. You know, we would like to help you do more good work, because when we help you, it helps us. I don't know if what I've said today has helped you, but it's helped me. I know that for sure. And so this is the kind of thing that we try to do at our various activities. Idea Cafe startup workshops. We invite people to come and sit down face-to-face and share their startup story. Sometimes when it's broadcast, it changes. But face-to-face in a small group, sometimes, you know, we get the real truth, and it almost always is, well, let me tell you how it really happened. And they're wonderful stories. If you don't want to be on the air and tell it here, and we certainly understand that, think about telling it at an Idea Cafe startup workshop. And we'd like to help you start one in cooperation with your local chamber or other group. Here in the Denver metro area, we have one pretty much every month. Panera Bread just closed down. We haven't found a replacement location. If you'd like us to meet at your Chamber of Commerce in the metro area, give me a call. We'll broadcast this. We'll hold a Idea Cafe startup workshop there, and we intend to move this around just a little bit more than we have in the past. Another meeting happens this afternoon, and we're going to be talking more about contemplative imagination, other meditation techniques. It's called Root and Branch, and it's at 1311 York Street. It's on the 3rd floor, and we talk about 12 steps of recovery for whatever. It's an open meeting, a truly open meeting. It's for anyone who's interested in a spiritual way of life and would like to learn more about how the spiritual path of the 12 steps works. The inspiration from this came from a retreat that was very, very helpful. And one of the books recommended there is Breathing Underwater by Richard Rohr. And best thing, if you're in the Metro Denver area, come this afternoon. It's 4:30 to 5:30, free and open to everybody. It's anonymous. It's a meetup.com group, but we ask you not to RSVP for this one, because we want you to be just as anonymous as you want to be. You don't have to share any more than you want. So Root and Branch this afternoon and every Monday, 4:30, 1311 York Street. And Socrates Cafe, I personally lead the University of Denver group every Saturday. That's from 6:30, and now we're going to make it 8 o'clock. We're adding a half hour. So 6:30 to 8, University of Denver in the Anderson Academic Commons. And information about all this is on our website, smallbizchamber.org, or our Twitter handle there you can see on the screen, @Idea Cafe. And we're out of time for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 12:30. Same way you found us today. Hopefully you'll get back tomorrow or give me a call. We'll start publishing lists of chambers that we're going to be at. If you would like help with your startup, give us a call. I love talking to people who are starting something new. So let's stop now, but with this thought in mind, this life truly is very short. Let's get started. Thanks for watching.